Hello everyone, it's Shel from Paper Rock TO Studio, and today is day 19 of the Art Journal Habit 2017 month-long challenge, which involves prompts for each day where we make art journal pages, and I'm also making a video every day. This prompt for today was home, and whenever I hear that word, I just think of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz saying, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home." That's just the first thing that pops into my head. So that's what I decided to do with my page. I had other ideas. I like to make cute little collage houses and things, and I thought maybe I would do those or something like that. But I just decided to go with my first idea. So the first thing that I'm doing is covering up the background of the page. I don't think that I mentioned why I started doing just single pages instead of double page spreads for the last few days, and that's because I went through my book and I realized there wasn't going to be enough pages for all of them. So I need to make a few of them that are just single pages, and then I'll finish up with the double page spreads again. So I have been going in order of the pages, but the next day's prompt for day 20 is phone, and I thought it would be funny to make phone on this junk mail that is about getting a new network for your cell phone. So, and also I wanted a little bit bigger page for what I was going to, because I was going to do collage. So I decided to flip and I'll do phone on the other side, there on the left-hand side. This is a junk journal, and in the description box below, there's a link to the video where I made the junk journal. It's made out of papers that I got in the mail, junk mail, the kind of, postcard, cardstock weight ones that you get. I saved a bunch of those, and then I used stab binding technique to bind them into a journal for this project. So if you want to watch me doing that, that is a video linked in the description box below. So I'm making a scene, obviously. I've got green on the bottom for the grass. I've got blue in the sky, and these are, this is all deli paper. My favorite 12-inch deli paper, which I'm going to link in the description box below so you can find it. It's the best kind of stuff. And it's been printed with a gel plate at some point. Some of it is older, some of it's newer, some of it's kind of like a cleanup paper, and some of it is actual gel prints. And I'm just using bits and pieces, like you do, to create my scene. I've got the Emerald City off there in the distance on the hill, and then here's the yellow brick road, which I used a gold printed deli paper to make the yellow brick road, and I was trying to figure out how to continue the road there. Took me a while to figure that out. Excuse me, I'm so tired. It's kind of late when I'm doing this editing. So eventually I figure it out, and I glue on a few more pieces of that gold to make my yellow brick road. And then I think I make a tree. Yeah, I think there's a tree involved at some point, and a rainbow. All just using the acrylic painted deli paper. So in a few sections you can see the page that was underneath the printing through the deli paper, because deli paper is translucent. It's like tissue paper, only it's more sturdy. I think another version of it might be baking paper or parchment paper maybe, but here in the United States we use deli paper whenever you get like a sandwich or fish and chips or something like that in one of those little plastic baskets. That's what they put, that's the paper that they put in there to keep the baskets clean, I guess, and to wrap up the sandwiches sometimes. That's what deli paper is. I know it confuses some people, but it's not tissue paper, because tissue paper tears too easy when it gets wet. So this has some sort of a coating on it, but I don't know. It's still absorbent enough to use it for collage. It's great stuff. It's great for mixed media. So I'll link where I get mine in the description box below. So then to make the rainbow, I cut my first little slice of rainbow and then I glue that to the next color and then glue that one to the next color and just keep cutting along the edge until I've built up several colors. This piece of deli paper just has some, like if I have leftover paint on my palette that I don't want to waste, I just spread it onto a piece of deli paper with my little scraper gift card thing, and in that way I have it to use for collage later. So this one had some red oranges, some yellows, some greens, and some blues. So that pretty much was perfect to make some sort of a rainbow. I could have also used a purple, but I didn't feel like going and finding a purple piece. So I just stick it down, trim the next row, stick it down, trim the next row until I have something that looks like a rainbow, and I attach that to my page as well. And then I tear a few pieces of the white untouched deli paper and glue those on for clouds. They end up blending in pretty well, but I pump them back up later so that you can see them a little bit better. You know, white fluffy clouds that would be around a rainbow. So once that's all complete, and oh yes, I still have to do the trees. The trees trunks are craft paper that you get in Amazon boxes, the filler paper. That's what that's made out of. I had a scrap of it on the floor. The reason I put the trees there is to kind of balance the page. The Emerald City is high up on the page and the left side of the page was low with nothing on it, so I wanted some balance. So I added the little trees there on the edge. Like that's probably the forest where Dorothy meets the Tin Man, maybe? Or the Cowardly Lion. I haven't watched this movie in a really long time, but I enjoyed it a lot in the past. So I do remember everything. So my background collage is done. I use a little bit of archival ink around the edges of the page to kind of frame in the page, some green and some blue. And then I need to have my focal point figures, and I had just this scrap of dictionary paper laying on my desk next to me, and so I decided to use that to draw my figures. Of course, there's going to be a Dorothy, and you know, in her classic pigtails and blue dress, and then of course Toto. So I start out my illustration by drawing with my drafting pencil, mechanical pencil, which has 2B lead in it, and I use a white eraser to erase a little bit. This is a lightweight paper, but it's not very fragile. It's not an old piece of dictionary paper. It's probably fairly current, and so it's not fragile. So this time illustration, I wanted it to be pretty much as tall as the page, not something real tiny, because I knew I was going to be coloring in the whole, you know, shebang. So I didn't want it to make it super tiny, but of course her little face is super tiny, which makes it hard to color. I need to work in some bigger stuff. It's time to go back to larger size. For all of October, I made those tiny drawings, and then for November, I've been working in a fairly small journal. So yeah, for December, I'm going to make big stuff. That's my plan. I have no idea what it's going to be, but I need to make some big stuff because I'm tired of all these teeny tiny little things. So once I was done with my pencil drawing, then I went ahead and used my Pitt illustration pens in a few different sizes. I used the brush one for the outer edges of the illustration, and then I went in with the medium and then the small. And then to just kind of cover up and lighten up some of the areas that had the print, I didn't want the print to be so prominent on her face and stuff. I used a Faber-Castell big brush pen, which is white. And that's the only big brush pen I have, actually. But the white kind of helps tone down those areas that are going to be skin, and helps with pushing back the print on the page a little bit. I want the project to look mixed media. I want it to have depth and layers, and so I'm not wanting to completely cover up the dictionary paper. Why would I use dictionary paper if I didn't want any of the text to show? But I just wanted to be pushed back in some areas. Then to color, I'm using my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. And so I've got my chart out because, as we've discussed before, I can't tell the colors by what's on the tip of these pens. The plastic on the tip is not accurate. So I do have to look on my charts to find the right colors. I probably should use 3 colors for each section to make it more dynamic, but I'm really just using 2. I used 2 different colors of blue, 2 different colors of brown, you know. I'm not going real crazy with the shading and everything, just kind of getting some color on there. I did use 3 different colors on her skin, however, because I wanted the basic color, then a shadow color, and then like a color to warm up on the cheeks and stuff like that. So I picked 3 different flesh tone-ish ones. That's the warming one, and I was kind of dotting it on just to warm up her skin. And then a pink to give a little bit of pink to her cheeks and her lips, and then I end up putting the red on her lips too at the end. Different browns for her basket than I used in the hair. And of course red shoes. She has a white blouse on. This is the classic outfit dress that she was wearing, and I didn't, she did have like kind of a gingham type pattern on her dress, but I let the print from the dictionary paper kind of give you the idea of the gingham rather than trying to go in and draw little checks, blue and white checks. Just sounded way too tedious. And then I use a little bit of white Posca to add some highlights in her eyes and along the bridge of her nose. Red for the shoes, obviously, that she got from the witch, because those are pretty key in the whole "there's no place like home, there's no place like home." She has to click her heels. So then I go back in and add a few more details, a few more detail lines and things with the illustration pens again to you know, like little creases and little things like that, and also to outline in places where I might have covered up with the white. More details on the basket, things like that, just little fussy things. All this pen work that I've done on this piece is, of course, water resistant, waterproof. So when I go to collage this on, none of it will smear. That's important to think about when you know that you're making a collage piece, that you're going to use a matte medium or something to get it wet ultimately, which if you used a different type of pen would of course smear and smudge and be icky. So then of course she has to have her little dog Toto too, and your little dog Toto too. So I have to draw him just using the rest of the scrap of the dictionary page. Drew him with my pencil, then went back in with the illustration pens and made the lines like you do. And then I used the browns that I used for her hair, the 2 different colors of browns I used for her hair, I used on the dog as well. Now that I think about it, he might have been a black dog. But in my illustration, he's brown, and that's fine because, you know, it's my illustration. If I want a brown dog, I can have a brown dog. That's the way it is. And then more detail again with the black pins, and then a couple catch lights for his eyes and the wet part of his nose with the white Posca pen. Cut them out, collage them onto the page. And those are my focal points, of course. So I know we've discussed lots and lots of times about putting shadows on when you're collaging around things so that it doesn't look like a bunch of stuck on things onto a page. And I decided to use an alcohol marker. Well, right now I'm pumping up those clouds a little bit because they were really faded into the background with the white India ink pen. But you know, I usually use either a Stabilo All pencil and a water brush, or else I use my India ink markers to do this process where I'm adding the shadows, like shadows under their feet, shadows under, you know, around. I picked a gray one, and this page is sealed with matte medium. Everything's been sealed with matte medium, so my theory was that this alcohol marker would work the same way as my India ink markers, the Pitt Artist Brush Pen ones, and that I would have a few seconds in which to smear a little bit, but it didn't work that way. The alcohol marker did not work at all like that. So I just didn't want to get out a different pen set just for that. So I did add some gray around to add a shadow to some things, and then now I'm writing my words using a metal ruler to keep me straight and a pencil, and then I go over them with the brush pen from the illustration set of pens. And that's pretty much it. If you've enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment so I know that you were here. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and also if you haven't turned on your notification bell, you might want to try that because it's making a difference now. So that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.